Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
I've heard all the things, you hold up your left hand, it makes an L. I know. And, you read left from right. I know.
Right.
But I'm still going to be in a moment of, where do I go? I'm going the wrong way.
Welcome to the Comedians in Elevators podcast. I have my guest, Kelly Hicks. Kelly, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Kelly Hicks, and I am a voice actor in Tacoma, Washington, which is very close to Seattle, Washington. Been doing the voice acting thing for about 4 years or so. Absolutely love it. A lot of e-learning because I've been a pharmacy technician since 2003. So a lot of e-learning, but animation and video games is where my heart is.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool, Kelly. Well, you ready to get started?
I am.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comments section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me.
All right. So the whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So Kelly, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
I don't know that you always would evolve into a comedian. I think maybe if you are an actor who is in some funny things where you are telling funny jokes and then you're on and I can't bring up anybody to mind right now, but you're on a talk show or something and you're really not a funny person unless somebody's writing that for you. So you can, but there's always a possibility not to.
Well, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. Many actors, their funny roles are comedic, but that's not because they're telling jokes necessarily, right?
Right.
The scenario is funny and they're kind of reacting to it. But because usually if you tell a joke in like a movie, it's not good. It's not technically right. It's not technically no comedy show or movie really has them telling jokes. Right. So that would be kind of alluding to maybe a drama where they do that or something else. But it always can be the other way, like you said. All right. So Kelly, you ready for the first question?
I am.
All right. It's about the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus the real self?
I think for a comedian, if we're going with the definitions that you have, I think the comedian is going to draw on their own experiences in order to build a character if they're using a character. So there's always going to be an element of that comedian's real self or personality in there somewhere.
Okay. So the question is where? So does authenticity matter or is illusion part of the magic?
Well, I think if you're going to be a true comedian, like say a stand-up comedian, authenticity has to matter because that's what people are looking for at this point, especially with AI and everybody's looking at everything they see going, is that real? Did you write those or did you get them from ChatGPT? That kind of thing. So they want it authentic. So I think authenticity going forward is going to be king as far as real people in entertainment.
I agree 100%. So since you brought up AI, I'm sure you would agree with most people that AI is not funny. It doesn't tell jokes well. At least they're not, Yeah, they're not funny. So if AI is embodied, basically put into a robot and has sensors, right? The fingers and all of that,
Mhm.
will it become funny at that point?
It has to learn. AI still has to learn. And so I think a lot of being funny is nuance and timing and, that facial expression and that, you've been there, right? Kind of a thing. And I think AI is going to struggle a lot with that because it doesn't have that learned experience and it has to learn in order
So
to
could you
go
imagine if
forward.
it's embodied in a robot, that would be the actual opportunity to actually learn what's funny?
No, no. I think
Okay.
it still has to. Its basic process is still going to be the same, whether it has. I mean, you can shake somebody's hand, but you're not going to get their funny from them. You
Okay.
know what I
That's
mean?
a, yeah, yeah.
Um,
You can't transplant a funny bone just by shaking
you
hands,
can't. You can't. It's not contagious.
right?
So, I mean, laughter is, but being
Right.
funny is not. So I
Right.
don't think it's going to matter. I think unless they really greatly improve the actual processes of AI, which I'm crossing my fingers that they kind of don't. Um,
Or they do to a point where it's good.
well, okay, yeah, like say my I call it my muggle job. Um, what I do to keep the mortgage paid. Um, AI is very, very useful. It's a super useful tool. We've got all kinds of ways to use it to really enhance our regular jobs, but I don't
Hmm.
think it belongs in um, creative spaces.
Okay. You said muggle? What
Yeah,
does that mean?
it's
Is
like
it, yeah.
it's a Harry Potter reference. If you
Ah.
don't have magic, you're a muggle. So
Ah.
it's my muggle job.
Okay. Very cool. So if you don't have magic, so that's like this is replace that with if you're not funny, you have muggle. Is that
Well,
where you're
I
going?
guess, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Magic and funny go along. At least I think so. All right. How
Yeah.
about punching up versus punching down? So where do comics versus comedians subscribe to this? And let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
I do not think so. I do not think so. I think he was just being too sensitive. Because the court jester's job is to make light of the things that are happening in the kingdom and the people that are controlling those things. And
Hmm.
so I think he was just being too sensitive. So, but I think punching up is definitely better. Punching down is lazy to me.
I would agree. So then is constructive criticizing of dead people considered punching down?
Well, yeah. Anytime you do anything like that with a person who can't actually come back and defend themselves, it's going to be punching down. I think.
I can imagine them coming back, as a ghost and haunting you. I mean,
Yeah,
is that
haunting you
would
later.
that count? Like at that
Oh well,
point,
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. If that's going to happen, 100%.
so if you don't know it and then it happens, what do you do after that? Do you go ahead and keep punching down? You keep telling those jokes, this guy's haunting me, and I'm
No,
just going to keep
I would never want that to happen again, unless, I
again.
mean, well, I mean, if it had
The
happened in the first
hypothetical
place.
situation you put yourself in.
Hypothetically speaking, I would only want that to be a one-time experience.
Uh, I could see I would want revenge on the ghost for coming back just to haunt me because I told a joke
Mm.
that he doesn't, because I
Well,
was punching down. I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's something there. It's
yeah,
not.
I don't
It's
know. I
not
don't
strong.
know. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
All right. So how about the cultural translation of comedy? So how do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
I think when you have cultures that are really drastically different, cultures that think differently or they do things differently, it's not going to work. Like where we're going to talk about going to the mall, you can't make jokes about going to the mall if you're going to be in a country that doesn't have malls because they're going to go,
Yeah, definitely, or at
Okay.
least the kind of mall you're referring to, right? Because we've got, yeah,
Exactly.
and you can,
Exactly.
the worst are puns, right? We talk about
Hmm.
strip malls, and then people are confused
Right.
completely, right? What is really going
Exactly.
on there? Yeah,
Exactly. And and there's definitely people that I mean there's definitely international humor you can do. I mean there's ways to just completely relate to people on a human being level
right.
without having the regionalism in there.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah. It's
or there's
I
also ways of people that can use that regionalism and make it funny because they're the people, you're talking to somebody who lives there and
mhm.
about something that's, it's a quirky thing about where they live, and you're talking about it, experiencing it as an outsider from the first time, and you can make it really funny, and they can really appreciate that, you know, that kind of thing. So there's ways to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, accents, dialects tend to be very
Oh,
regional, so
yeah.
we could work on the puns of those. So,
Oh,
how
yeah,
does
yeah. I have a
yeah?
Scottish
Do you,
friend, and
okay,
that can go all day long.
yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm sure he's saying words you have no idea what they are,
no,
and
no, but it sounds like something else that I do,
exactly,
and and it just like I say that can go all day long. That's endless fun.
yeah. All right. So, how does the silence when your joke doesn't land hurt physically, emotionally, morally, or spiritually?
I think that's emotional. I think that's an emotional thing because you, especially like I'm going to equate it to doing an audition for like an animation, and they say they are encouraging ad libs and that kind of thing, and so you do something that you think is really hilarious, and then you play it for somebody later, and they're like, that doesn't make any sense, and so it kind of hurts your ego and emotionally that, oh, I thought I was funny. So
Well,
yeah, I
yeah,
think
you,
it
you
hurts
could be
emotionally.
funny, but it doesn't fit the story, right?
Exactly, exactly. Or it
Yeah.
could just be not funny.
Right.
There's
Because you
that
tried to fit the
too.
story. You're like, it's got to fit in the story. And
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. It's,
yeah,
so
definitely the
yeah.
problem with trying to stick to the script is sometimes the wrong answer.
Hmm.
So, are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Um, it, I think that's one of those things you can't just say yes and no. But I think most part comedians are a little more culturally specific.
Okay.
Um, for the most part. I'm thinking about like say like George Carlin or the Red
Hmm.
Fox and that kind of thing. So
Okay. I mean, George Carlin's the go-to for sure. So then
yeah,
how about love and justice? So is the highest function of comedy to expose injustice or to make people feel less alone while living with it?
I think it's to expose the injustice, because if we all get to feeling less alone and more comfortable with it, then it will never change.
Right.
And I think one of a super powerful tool of a comedian is being able to connect with an audience and present a kind of a moral point of view or a social point of view or something like that in a way that can be accepted without them thinking, oh, he's just preaching at me or whatever. I think that is one of the highest things that a comedian can do. And that's the magic of a comedian. That's the magic of comedy, is that
All
you
right.
can do that. You can connect with somebody and help to get see the same point of view, if that or at least come to a kind of a middle ground when before, if you're not using comedy, you don't even have a discourse, if
All
that makes
right.
sense. I
It
kind of went
does.
off on
It
a
does.
tangent, but
Yeah,
if that
it does. So how about when a joke harms someone unintentionally? Does love demand accountability or does justice demand defiance?
no, I think love demands accountability, because that goes back to that whole thing. You can't connect with people without saying, hey, I realize that I did something that really
Beady,
upset
beady, beady.
you, and I'm going to be accountable for that. I'm sorry you got upset. Something like that. I think if you're always just going to be like, well, too bad for you,
Hmm.
that's not a good way of really making yourself a universally accepted comedian.
All right. All right. I like it. All right. So, very important question: advertising and self promotion. Who advertises themselves more? The comic, the comedian, or the magician?
You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast to get the message out today. See you soon.
Hmm. I think just from what I see is it would be the comedian.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's fair enough. So, then, Kelly, what don't you want me to know about you?
Well, you know, that's one of those questions that you don't want to answer, right? But
Maybe.
I I am one of the few people that is afflicted with directional dysphoria disorder.
Okay.
So I don't know my right from my left. So if someone tells me to go left, a lot of times I'll just go right.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah, I figured out ways to cope with that without people
Okay.
noticing that I don't know my left from my right. But yeah, it's I've heard all the things. You hold up your left hand, it makes an L. I know, and you read left from right. I know,
Right.
but I'm still gonna be in a moment of where do I go? I'm going the wrong way.
Interesting. So is it more about new information as opposed to like reading where you, like you said, you go left to right, or do you just start reading right to left and then realize that doesn't work?
No, no, I've never actually tried that.
Well,
But
you wouldn't on
it's
purpose, right?
right. It's just something that I've always had an issue with. And I remember when I was like 4, I had a turquoise ring, a teeny tiny turquoise ring that I could wear on my right hand. And so
Hmm.
if somebody said right, I could put my thumb on the back of my ring and I would know that's right.
Mm.
And then after I got married, my wedding ring feels different than the other ring, or I'll have a ring on a different finger. So that's how I tell. And I've just cheated this whole time since I was like, 4 or 5. And so I've never really tried to cope any other way.
Ah, very nice. So have you had hiccups that don't go away?
Oh, yes, I have. It once was after surgery, and that was just the worst.
Did
Yeah.
you try the drink water from the other side of the glass
Like,
technique?
well, I've watched people try to do the upside down thing, and
Right.
I've watched it, and it never worked. And so I thought, why would I try? So no, I didn't do
Well,
that. I ate a lot of sugar because
how do
that
you know it
seemed
doesn't work if you didn't try?
well, because I mean it didn't work for all of them, and
How do you know it didn't work for them?
well, because they were usually at my house, or there was once I was driving someone home, and she was trying to do that in the passenger seat.
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah,
driving,
it, it,
that's
it didn't
it's a
work.
very delicate operation. You can't
It
do it in the
didn't work.
car. I don't.
And I thought eating sugar was much more fun. So I went with that method. It didn't work. So what I wound up doing was drinking some Alka-Seltzer and that.
Hmm. The, yeah, the reason why I brought it up is because you're talking about this kind of how I interpret it is an effect of mirroring, right? When you're not
Mm-hmm.
no when you have a confusion between right or left, and I've experienced a lot of things, and that technique of when you have hiccups to drink it, I
Mm-hmm.
think is one of the reasons why it works is because it changes your mental picture of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden you're looking at that mirrored version of your own face to do this, right? If you actually
Yeah.
try and imagine what, like if you were to put yourself, right? Because now you're like kissing yourself really to make it work,
To
right?
make it
Which
work,
means
yeah.
you've mirrored your own face to do it.
Uh-huh. Right, right.
So I
I
thought,
do I
well,
do know a straw. Like if you have a straw and you like pinch the end of the straw and try to blow through it, that also helps.
okay. All right, I like it. All right, it's like you were ready for that one. Okay, how about censorship and offense? So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
I again, I think that's one of those that you can't really say yes or no. Um, I think it depends on the comedian and what he's built or he or she has built their entire persona around. You know,
Okay.
like say Bill Burr, for example. I mean, I absolutely love him, but he's not going to run from telling somebody what he thinks, and he's going to make it
Yeah.
funny, but he's not going to run from that. And that's his personality, and that's what everyone expects from him.
Right.
You're not going to expect, like, say, Will Ferrell to just pop off with something absolutely mean out of nowhere to a random heckler.
Does he do stand up?
No, he doesn't. But I'm just
Okay.
using him as an example as somebody who's
Right.
just so nice.
Yeah,
He's
he's a
super
great
funny, but he's so
comedian.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard even when I would think he must have tried, but probably maybe on set, because
Mm-hmm.
to me, the only way as a comedian, I mean, he's like a comic, but it's really a comedian. So what would he
Mm-hmm.
do if he did stand up? So I'm not going to get
Right,
too far
right,
into that.
right.
So
Yeah, I don't know. His stand up I think would be quite interesting. Didn't he
I
do
couldn't,
that thing about George Bush? Didn't he do the whole show as George Bush Jr., George W?
I don't know, but
I think he
everything I
did.
see him in is hilarious. So
I think he did. I think he did because he does a really good impression of him, and it was
oh,
right after he wasn't president anymore, and I think he did a whole show as George W. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I starting to remember that. Yeah, yeah, I think absolutely. It's
Hmm.
everything I see him do is funny. So
Right, right.
I wonder what the outtakes of what's not funny. Probably those are the most frightening ones, right? He's got this like nemesis of like the cuts. They just put it into some kind of black box and burn it for magic.
Right.
So who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
Well, the mudslinger definitely not. Um, but the magician probably, unless he's like super like topical and this is what we want to see in Vegas right now, but we don't ever actually expand our show and move on with the times, like a Chris Angel type of guy.
Hmm.
He might not survive because I mean, everybody's like, I've seen this 1,000 times. I don't want to see it again. I
Right.
think as long as whomever it is able to evolve themselves, they will be able to survive that.
Okay. All right. So how about timing and delivery? Is it a science or an art?
I think it's an art. I really do.
So then do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on rhythm and emotion?
Um, I would say probably yeah. For the most part, depending on again what they're actually doing.
Hmm.
Um, but I think like a guy who's coming out to do a stand up and they do a lot of crowd work or whatever. That's all going to be just reading the room and matching energies, and that's an art form. You're not. That's very hard to teach someone to be able to do that successfully.
Okay. So laughter versus applause. So are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks or a primetime Emmy that validate the message?
Well, let's look at it this way. If you go to a comedy show, lots of comedy shows that inspire laughter also get applause. Very
Right.
few comedy shows that don't inspire laughter get applause. So
Okay.
they go hand in hand. I think if nobody laughs but you get this very polite applause, that just means you should not do that anymore.
Or you're in another country where that's all they
Yeah,
do, right?
exactly. And you should really figure out your set. But I think you don't get people to laugh unless you relate to them on some level.
Right.
There's got to be some kind of relating happening. There's got to be some kind of, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Oh yeah, I've seen that happen. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that happened to you. Kind of a thing. And that's where you're going to get people to laugh. And then naturally they're going to applaud for you because you related with them on a personal level.
All right. So, how about comedy as commentary? So, when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
I think when they build their entire persona around, like, say, politics,
Mhm.
like, say, again, with George Carlin, or even uh, Steve Hofstetter. He's one of my favorites. I've seen him a bunch of times down here at the Tacoma Comedy Club, and he's always excellent. But his set is always geared on how we treat each other as people and how politics messes that up.
Mm.
And so I think he's one of those people that if you don't agree with him, you're probably not going to really listen, and that kind of thing. But if you do agree with him, then you're going to listen, and he's going to be funny. I love him, but
So, there's no hecklers at his shows?
oh, that's what he's known for. Unfortunately, there's never been one at the shows I've gone to. I've sat there the whole time going, "Come on, somebody,
Well, guess
please."
who has to do it?
Well, I don't have a way to heckle him. I'd just be like, "Hi, I like you. I hope your baby's doing well." I mean, that would be me.
Right. Well, maybe to channel your inner nemesis, you can
Yeah, I
really,
guess. Yeah. No, I don't
or
want to. I don't
trickster.
want to be that person.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It
So
has to
then,
be. It has to be real. I can't. I can't
okay.
do that.
No, you can't
Well,
uncover
I
the
could.
demon inside.
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends. Yes, definitely. You
Right.
give me a good animation when I get to be the bad guy. You better believe it. But yeah,
There we go.
not
All
so
right.
much in real life. I like to get along with the people I'm around.
Well, generally, it's a good idea.
It just makes life easier.
It does. So then is truth treasure in heaven?
Well, it would have to be because you can't take anything else. And
That's
if
a
you don't
great,
have truth, that you're not going that direction. So,
that that seemed like you outsmarted the question on that one for sure. All right. So Kelly, are you ready to enter the multiverse?
oh yes.
Okay. All right. Board game Zoomcast, play versus performance. So you have to choose an avatar. So if comedy or a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist avatar, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist avatar, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
Oh, I'm Foley all the way.
Okay.
I've never been a subtle. I've never been accused of being subtle or just doing shading in the back. No, I've always been accused of being the
Got it. So you
loud
color
one.
outside the lines.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's where the sound is in outside the line colors.
Mm. No, of course.
Maybe. So then does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
I think those are going to definitely go hand in hand. I mean, of course, if you're reading like a comic strip or something, it's that's going to be painted vividly. But I think if you are like, I remember, and I know Bill Cosby's not the best guy to talk about, but I remember when I was really little, my mom and dad had the Bill Cosby records, and that was actually the first comedy show I went to. I think it was like 4 or 5 and we went and saw Bill Cosby. But we had the records, and I remember listening to the records and him talking about like chicken heart and spreading pudding all over the floor and all of this, and I could just see it in my head. And so I think if someone is really really good at just creating a whole storyscape when they're telling their jokes,
Hmm.
then they paint it.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean that's exactly part of the question. That's why I ask it that way is that's the visual
Right,
part.
right. I mean, my Uncle
So that
Jerry could tell you a story that you could see it as vividly as if you were actually there, and it's always hilarious, and some people just have that.
yeah, that's right. And usually not the Sonic, right? But if you can get them both together,
But
then
if you
you'd be
got them
good.
both together, then that's gold.
All right. So, speaking of gold, here in the Comedians and Elevators podcast, we have a tradition, a golden tradition. I'm going to skip the gold. It's a tradition where the previous guest asks you a question for the next guest. And the previous guest was Sabrina Hamilton. And her question for you, Kelly, is why is comedy important to you?
Mm. Um, because it's a way to relate to others. It's a way to see your life in the world in a better light. I think if you can see the comedy in things, then th- they just every day just doesn't become a dreary trudge, and we don't want every day to be a dreary trudge. So I think being able to, see the funny in the everyday situation, I think is so important to just everybody. That way, your heart just feels a little bit lighter.
All right. I like it. All right. Last question legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics Type 5 survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Well, we're still talking about George Carlin.
Okay. So is he
We're
comic or
still talking
comedian?
about Red Star. We're still talking about those guys. So I think those guys in their cultural point of view is gonna be the timeless.
Okay. Love it. So Kelly, where can everyone find you online?
I have a website. It's called www. Kelly Said That. I'm known as Kelly Said That on all of the platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, um, TikTok, uh, all of them. It's usually some form of Kelly Said That.
I like it. All right.
But I don't know how I lucked out getting that phrase in everything when I did this, but it was lucky.
That's the way it should be. Awesome. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everyone, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.
If you're interested in too much information like in the network state or Mantipus the chicken shit, check out this video. Or is it this one right here? Well, either way. Lizard